Hey legends, what an episode we have for you today with Jack Hanley, aka the Crazy Running Man. Now some of you might do 1 kilometer runs, 2K runs, or even 5K runs. This man just completed a 50-day challenge where he ran 50 kilometers a day for all 50 days. Even more crazy, the 51st day he decided to get back out there and run it again and run his personal best time. It is an unbelievable story, more so because he tells us of the tough times where he was battling addiction to drugs and alcohol and going through a tougher period in life which sent him to rehab. And then now he's created this movement of running where people are following him, running with him on these challenges, strangers that he doesn't even know, turning up to his events. So much juice in this, so many nuggets for you. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. As I always say, if you are new here, thank you for turning up. And if you've come back again, I absolutely love you. We've had a massive 2 weeks, I just want to say, for the podcast. And I have to thank all the listeners out there. As of today, when we're shooting this episode, which is actually the day before release, we've been in the podcast charts, I think, for the 9th or 10th day in a row now, which we haven't. That's our longest run in the charts, in the top 50 sports podcasts in the country. So I can't thank you guys enough. The last few episodes with Mason Wood and Tom Mitchell have been flying around, but they haven't been our highest rated either. So you guys are viewing all the episodes, which I thank you so much for. Before I get into today's show and today's guest, which I'm absolutely pumped about, I just want to give you one last push for Christmas. The merch, we still have plenty of merch on the shelves. Maybe I ordered too much, but get around it. We've got the top hat, the Unlaced podcast hat here with the resilience, drive and ambition on the back, the smiley t-shirt here, and also the humanized tee, the black tee, which you'll see flying around socials. The link is in the bio. It's a great Christmas present for one of your friends or a fellow listener of the show. Get around them. And today, of course, the show that we have been wanting for a couple of weeks, I'll be honest, because I've been watching this man's socials, for the last 50 days, ironically, which we'll go into. But the crazy running man known as Jack Hanley, we're going to get into some of your achievements, mate. But firstly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, mate. Appreciate it.
It's you've been on a few podcasts of late, mate. You're getting a bit of traction.
No, I've been on a couple, but thanks for having me on, mate. I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, just to go into context right off the bat of why I wanted to get you on is you've obviously been through some trials and tribulations in life, but more importantly, the last 12 months is what's caught a lot of people's eyes and attention to your story. And probably at the start of the year, you had a big challenge, which we'll go into, but more recently, the most amazing thing I've ever seen, Jack did 50 kilometers a day for 50 days was the challenge. And he's achieved it. But then again, being the crazy running man, which his Instagram is, had to do it for a 51st day. Couldn't rest on the 50th. So that's fucking insane, bro. That is crazy.
Nah, mate, it was honestly one of the best things I've done. To get so many people involved throughout the 50 days was what it's all about. And we had so much fun and just built such a great community with everyone. Day 51, that was a bit of a special one. But yeah, no, we decided to send a quick one on the extra day that we added.
50, like there's most people that are listening to this now probably have never run a marathon, maybe have never run a half marathon. You've done 50 Ks for 50 days, like individually, right? So that every day you didn't miss a day, involved weekends. Like fitness for you, has it transformed your life as such?
100%. I got back into my fitness back in probably midway through 2020 during COVID. I was always into running when I was at school and younger, but sort of went down a different path for a little bit, but I've found my way back to it, and I haven't looked back. I bloody love it. There's no limitations to running, and that's the best thing about it. And all you got to do is chuck your 2 shoes on and head out the door.
Yeah. Well, before we go into like breaking down the actual achievement, because you can't come on this show without us going into it. I want to get the juice from you of why you, like what you've achieved, because I find that stuff infectious when you're around people like that and people doing great things. And anyone that you mate will be. They'll probably have like you at the top of their circle of being proud, because it's always great when you're doing when you're mates with someone that's doing something really well. It's quite inspiring. But before I go into, I guess, the why you did it or felt the need to do it or wanted to do it, I just want to know the sensation you feel today. Like from having achieved the start of the year, you did a 100K run, and then you've just finished the 50-day challenge.
Yeah, look, I'm very proud of what I've been able to do. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without, the support that I've had around me, my family, my friends, my football club, and the community that got involved throughout the 50 days. And you know what? When you're doing it with other people, getting them involved, it makes it a whole lot more fun. And you bring people with you for that ride, and they could share those moments with you. And that was the best thing about it.
Really? So when you say that, what is in like different days, different people are running with you, or like what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. So like throughout, I reckon before I started day 1 to day 50, I met about 60 to 100 people I'd never met before. And that was the awesome thing. Like just people saw my Instagram, came down, liked what they were doing, came down and got involved with the runs. And they kept coming down throughout each day, throughout the week, 2-3 times a week.
Jeez.
And so many people ran PBs and distances they never thought they could. And to see other people do that, it is what actually inspires me to do this sort of thing.
Right. So, but if I'm coming down to run with you, there's no way I'm completing 50K. So, which I hope I do one day, but for the moment, there's no way. So what would people doing?
That's the thing. You don't have, that was always the aim. You don't have to come down and run 50K. No,
I'd want to though. I'd be like, fuck this. I don't want to do 10 and leave.
You know what? There's a lot of people that, came down and they said they were going to come down, they were going to run 5K. And they end up running a half marathon.
Wow.
Like it's sort of infectious when you're in a big group of people and you're rallying around them saying, come on, let's go. Bring them with you and you're helping each other out.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much further you can sort of push yourself.
I find it's when you play a lot of team sports, which I know you're a footy guy. Like for me, I really struggle now to go train by myself.
Yeah.
Like, so I've actually gone and got a PT. Shout out Geordie Pollard because he's helped me do it. You probably know Geordie Pollard.
Yeah.
D-Lar boy as well.
D-Lar boy.
Yeah.
Good
so
D-Lar boy.
Without accountability, I'm struggling to do it. So stuff like that would make a lot of sense. Like people doing like personal best because you always push yourself more when you got someone else pushing you, which is why it's interesting for you because I feel like as much as you're giving credit and being humble to other people, you're your own boss in pushing yourself there because you're setting these challenges. No one's really telling you you're capable of doing this. You're putting it on yourself.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, as I said before, with running, I find there's no limitations of how far you can actually push yourself. Obviously, the 50K a day for 50 days was my challenge, and that's what I wanted to challenge myself to. But our aim was to get as many people involved throughout the runs, throughout the 50 days. And obviously, as I said, you don't have to run. They didn't have to run the 50K. They could come down. They could run 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K. But it was just sort of about bringing people together. And especially through, there's been some tough times over the last few years for everyone. And the community, bringing the community together, there's nothing better. And, you get those little chats going while you're running and you look down at your watch and you've run 10K and it feels like you've run 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's something that it was one of the best experiences I've had in my life. And, it was unbelievable.
You've got the fitness drug now, or the challenge, the
100%.
extreme challenge drug.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we'll definitely go into more for all the listeners at home. But I do want to go into the why, because the why of everything is always interesting and tells you a lot about a person. And particularly for you, the why of why you are doing, I guess, maybe for you it's not extreme, but for the average person, it's an extreme kind of challenge and breaking barriers of an extreme level. Like, why was that a requirement for you?
Yeah, so obviously there's 2 things I'm really passionate about. One's mental health and 2 is running. So obviously came up with the idea of combining the 2 together. So obviously running 50K a day for 50 days was a challenge, and I wanted to raise money for the Out of the Blue mental health and wellbeing program we've started up at at De La Salle Football Club.
Right.
Which our aim is to raise awareness around mental health and help reduce the stigma. So yeah, that was the main goal. And yeah,
is there like donations going to that? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, so we've actually we had a goal of 50,000 and we're just ticked over about 55.5 at the moment.
Wow.
So if you did still want to donate, you still can via my Instagram page, The Crazy Running Man.
We'll put that link in our bio on this episode for everyone that wants to support it, because that's incredible.
Been blown away with the support and 55K. The donation. Unbelievable. It's going to go a long way to help us really kickstart this program.
Yeah.
And we've got some big things to come in 2024.
What sort of programs would you be looking to run from that perspective with that?
Yeah,
money?
so look, we had it. Obviously, we've had it set up at the De La Salle Football Club. That's where we started it up. But with the community that we've got involved throughout these 50 days, it's sort of become a bit bigger than that now because there's so many different people from different parts of the community. So we're looking to sort of run mental health workshops, providing a club psychologist for players, staff and supporters. And we got another few things in the pipelines that we just need to tick off first before we release that. But yeah,
well, so
it's exciting, very exciting.
It's incredible, and it's probably more incredible not just for the physical achievement as such, but more for the reasons of where you've come from and how you've tried to transform your life and yourself, which is a big aspect around mental toughness, I think, because I think when you're at your lows and you can get yourself out of it, it's not saying you always do it on your own, but still the fact that you can get yourself out of it says a lot about character. And for you, I know you had a pretty sort of dark past where you're battling various things that were coming into, I mean, I think a lot of people go through it more than you think. This is why it's a really important topic, and I thought this would be a great episode as well. But particularly with your story, you felt like it was blocking you from being successful across sort of, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. So I would love to go into that more and understand when that started and when it was time to kind of change that because it was getting too much.
Yeah, so definitely when I finished school, I sort of went down a different path, and as you said before, those three things were sort of heavily involved in my life up until probably about the age of 25. Mm-hmm. So probably about halfway through 2020.
It's a good knock.
It was a good knock. It was a good knock.
School.
I certainly wasn't looking the way I did now.
Mate, that's a physical achievement in itself.
I was looking a lot heavier.
Were you really?
I was about 92 kilos.
What are you now?
Post-run, I was down to about 66 and a half.
Holy shit. So 30
That's a bit too skinny.
Okay,
I'm starting to put it back on now.
Okay.
I've been eating a fair bit since I finished.
Actually, no. What was the cheat meal? What was the go-to cheat meal?
Oh, mate, the go-to cheat meal was definitely Hungry Jack's.
Hungry Jack's
barbecue cheeseburgers were going down very nicely, and a lot of chocolate thick shakes.
Oh, wow.
They were probably my two favourites that hit the spot.
The craving. So when you came out of school, was it just like a loss of anything, or was it more the freedom of not going to school? Like what was sort of the driver to be sort of going down that path?
Yeah, look, I probably just had no sort of sense of direction with my life, and probably was bottling up how I was feeling and probably running away with it and hiding it through certain things I did. And that went on for a very long time until 2020, I decided to make a change. Obviously, I didn't do it myself. I got some help with that. And I spoke openly, finally for the first time, I spoke openly about it with friends, family, professionals. And that's sort of what really kick-started me into gear. And sort of since then, I've had some slip-ups along the way. I'm not perfect. No one is. But if I'm always trying to be better myself and grow as a person, that's all you can do. Yeah,
but do you deem slip-ups like going back into a big night out? Because wouldn't that be you're in more control now because you're not doing it as frequently? I'd say I'd say that's not a slip-up in my eyes.
Yeah, in some people's eyes it wouldn't be. And it's just, sometimes it just doesn't make me feel that good when I do it.
Yeah, I don't think it makes anyone feel that good, particularly after.
Yeah.
I don't think humans are designed to feel great after it,
100%. So, and that's the thing, like with running is what I've found has really helped my mental health. And I get the feeling you get after you finish a run is unbelievable. Like you get more energy. You just feel like on top of the world. Well, for me personally, I feel on top of the world. I feel unbelievable. So, yeah. I
always find with when you get a sense of achievement, that's higher than a feeling of a drug or alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's more it's when you lose purpose, as you said, direction. It's something I'll probably speak about more on this podcast because I went through it quite severely when I came out of soccer, to a level that I think you're quite similar to you, where as soon as there's no direction and something to chase for, that's when you're doing things that in your mind you're probably not harming yourself as much as you are until you really analyze your actions, and that was quite confronting for me. That's why this story is really cool. But with you, would you say it was like an addiction of any sort? Is that too strong to push that on?
Yeah, I probably did have a few addiction problems. As you can see, I like to do things to the extreme. But you know what? I'd rather be doing some healthy, good stuff to the extreme than other things. So, that's what I've sort of figured out about my personality and myself. I sort of, I've looking forward to big things to come in the future because I feel like, this is just a stepping stone,
mate,
for what's to come.
Absolutely. There's probably just a couple more questions I just have in this space because it's building up to what you've done and what the reasons why you've done it, and obviously the charity that you're building and so forth around mental health. But just to gather insight on like how like painful this process was for you, like how much were you partying? Like, was it more of a binge party? Or was it like?
Yeah, so it was more binge party when I was a bit younger, from up until about probably 18 to 24. It was mainly just weekends. But yeah, during COVID, it got to its worst.
Yeah.
It started to progress, more than just the weekend. And then it sort of hit rock bottom, and I said enough's enough, and sort of opened up about what was really going on for me. And got the help I needed. And then, obviously, it's good to get the help you need, but it's also, you've got to want to change yourself as well.
Absolutely.
And that's, you can't actually help someone that doesn't want to change.
What was the penny drop moment for you to be like, now's it? Because you probably knew, but it's different from knowing to actually doing it. So what was the moment where you're like, it's time to sort of act upon this, I guess?
Yeah, so it was probably, it would have been maybe July 2020, I reckon.
Oh, I thought you were about to say the exact
date. No, July 2020. I can't remember the exact date.
I was going to say, it's a big day, mate. Whatever happened then.
Yeah, no, I had a really big night, and I actually ended up having a little bit of a seizure.
Oh, wow.
And that really rocked me.
Yeah.
And like being up for, sort of a day and no sleep, and that really rocked me, and I was like, this isn't good. I need to, really do something about this. And pretty much since then, I haven't looked back.
Wow. Do you remember that? Like, you remember having a seizure? Like,
I don't remember the lead up to it, but I can't actually remember it happening.
Just like black out.
Just black out, and then woke up and there. Man. And so, that was pretty scary, and that really woke me up.
Yeah.
And then that's when I, decided to get some help with.
Do you find, because when I was kind of in a state like that, what I got really good at was hiding things from people. Like a genius, I was.
Yeah. I was.
Like I could mask as if nothing was going on, but I was doing stuff that people would be like, you probably shouldn't be doing that. Like, you know what I mean? With where you've been and where you want to go. Like, that's not helping, but I could mask it like everything was fine, which I think's one of the scary things when, not necessarily around addiction, but when people have bad habits, like people are really good at masking them.
Yeah, 100%.
And not being honest.
100% compulsive liar.
Compulsive liar,
You don't know how to tell the truth.
You don't even think you're lying. You're just like, I am.
You lie about what you have for lunch. Yeah. No, that's it. That's what, like when you're in that moment, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's always a way out of it.
Absolutely.
Always a way. You can get yourself out of it. And it's not going to be forever. Yeah. And people change and they grow and they get help and they go down a different path. It's not going to be forever.
Yeah, you mentioned something before about telling your family and your friends, telling your peers anything that's not in line with maybe who they think you are or who you want them to think you are is one of the toughest things I reckon you can do. And like I've been in that situation before where it's like, I've had to tell people or I've confronted certain issues, but it's never ever comfortable. And it's not to say the thing that really shocked me is like I thought people would be horrified. But it was like their first thought was like, oh, thanks for telling me, like, because they want to help.
Yeah, they want to help you.
Yeah.
And people that care about you and support you, they're there to help. They're not there to make your life difficult. And that's another thing. Like I used to think like, my family and friends are going to they're trying to tell me not to do this or not to do that. They're being difficult. Yeah. They're just trying to help you.
Mate, it's like a big misconception.
And then when you wake up to it, you're like, oh, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they just want the best for you.
They want the best for you. They want to be there for you and help you and see you do well.
Correct. Because you've given it an opportunity to help correct something maybe before it's too late.
Exactly
which
right.
Is a privilege for them because they don't want to see you do any more harm to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Ma, that's pretty cool, man. I apprate you sharing that.
That's right, mate.
Yeah, that was like a 6-7 year process, really.
Yeah, no, it's been a long process, Yeah. But it's so good I'm very proud of where I am today, and my family are very proud and my friends of me. So it's got to keep growing as a person and keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So have you so when you made the decision in 2020? I think I watched you speak about this as well, where you went on like a sober period for 3 months and then had a little bit of a sort of fall back into the phase. And then you went on a 12-month kick. which is where things started to change. So can you just kind of take us through that moment of post-seizure when you're like, I'm gonna get my shit together, having a little bit of a fall, and then you're like, no, that's it. I'm going hard here, 12 months sobriety.
Yeah, so that little 3-month period where I had off was, it was really good. And then it got to the Christmas holidays and I thought, I'm not going to go back to where I was there. Like I've done a bit of work on myself. And, I had a little bit of fun over the Christmas period, and then family was worrying, friends was worrying, and I sort of said to myself, all right, they don't trust me. I'll get that 100%. So, you know what, I'm actually going to do the whole year sober. I'm going to do a fundraiser for something that I'm passionate for, Mental Health Foundation Australia.
Wow.
And, sort of prove to them, but also prove to myself. And it was the best thing I ever did, because I've found the direction I wanted to go down. I was getting right into work, finding what I really wanted to do with my life. And that 2021 was the year that sort of kickstarted everything for me.
Yeah, it's hard when you go down that path too, is that outside of just not feeling great, like when you obviously have these massive highs, but when you're not feeling great, it affects like performance in other things. Like imagine work, decision making, just optimizing, who Jack Hanley is. That's the biggest fallout. So that would have been like a really cool awakening in that 12-month sobriety, to be like, man, these things, doing daily tasks and doing all these things are much easier than 2-3 years before, for example.
100%. And like I learned so much about myself in that year.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where the thing that really kickstarted who I really was. And I finally found myself again.
What were the things that you would say you learnt, like the big things that the kind of you took out of that period?
Yeah, so I've definitely learnt that, my values and the sense of direction I wanted to go in my life. Because before that, I sort of, wasn't keeping down a job, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was changing job, going from job to job. And then, that year I was just sort of like, I was, at work on time all the time, wanted to be there, loved it. Moved out of home for the first time. Had to do all the cooking, do all the housework, do all the fun stuff. No, it was the best thing ever.
Oh, really?
Well, you got to learn that eventually. You can't get everything done for you all the time. You got to grow and learn life skills. And it was just that was the best thing about it.
Did you just flick a switch to go start doing that, or did you go to rehab for anything?
I did go to I went to rehab in 2020.
Oh, 20. So post-seizure you went to rehab.
Yeah.
Wow, what's that like?
Yeah,
I've never actually spoke to anyone about what that's like.
Yeah, I've been a couple of times before that when I was a bit younger.
Yeah.
But when you're young, dumb, and you just think you're invincible. I wasn't there for the right reasons. But this time around, I wanted to go because I actually wanted to be there and get some help. And
wow.
Rehab was a good Kickstarter. I feel like it is a good Kickstarter for anyone that is, struggling out there or having a few problems. But you've got to actually want to change yourself. And if you don't want to change yourself, then no one can help you.
Credit to you for that. That's not easy. So when you go to rehab, is that like you go away and stay somewhere? Or is it more you go see?
It was just at a place in Glen Waverley, so not too far. So I was just there for a month and I stayed in there and then, month.
What are you doing there? Like, what is it? Like,
you just do a lot of, like readings. You do a lot of talking and book work.
Is it tough? Like, is it tough?
Oh, like no, I wouldn't say it's tough. If you don't want to be there, then you're not going to enjoy it. Well, I wouldn't say enjoy it. Like, I knew I needed it. So I went in there and I'm like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to put in 100%. I need to listen. I need to, change who I am and the way I've been behaving. I was chips in and, since then, obviously, came out of there and I was feeling good. That's when still before then, I was having little moments where I was like sort of getting back into action, like where I started running again. One of my good mates actually, who I thank a lot for this, he actually got me right back into running.
How good's that?
So during 20,
who was that? Let's give him a shout.
His name's Matt Mullally, actually.
I know Matt Mullally. Yeah. Shout out Matt Mullally. I think we went to primary school together.
We just had his wedding on the weekend.
Oh, wow. Fuck, mate. That's what I'm getting old and that's happening.
So he actually got me back into it. We used to catch up a couple of times a week.
Oh, how good's that, man?
So that was, that sort of kickstarted it for me. And then dropped off a little bit, but then straight back into it.
It's the one thing that's admirable as well is not to play the victim. Like when you're imagine when you're in rehab, you can go one or two ways. You can go, fucking, I'm going to make the most of this because I need to, or you can be like, fuck, I'm here. Like this sucks.
Exactly right.
Like, I just get through it, and then when I get out and go back to be myself again. Which you got kind of two options, which I reckon a lot of people would take, the ladder there and go down the wrong path. So,
and that's, as I said, you got to want to change. Unless someone doesn't want to change who they are and the way they've been behaving, you can't really help them.
Yeah. So had you always, let's go into some of the achievements and the fun stuff, because had you always been an athlete?
Yeah. So through school, I was always into my sports, footy, basketball, cricket, running, loved it. So I was always from a young age right into it.
And then running, was that like when you say your mate Matt got you into running, had you been doing running and like sort of these long distance runs before? Is this all started really, really recently?
So obviously at school I was cross country, all that sort of stuff.
So you're a natural goer.
I would say natural. I was okay at it, nothing special. And then it sort of didn't do too much running for about 7 years there. Put on a fair bit of weight, was pretty heavy. And then, decided to get back. I always loved running though. Like at school, I loved it. Like I sort of got into running when I was about, 14, I reckon, 13, 14. Loved it.
Yeah.
My uncle actually got me into it then. It was, obviously back in 2020, got back into it then. And really started to sort of pick up along the way, like ran my first half marathon, started 2021, and then progressed to obviously I was doing that fundraiser throughout the year. So then I had a fundraiser for my first marathon I did because we were sort of in lockdown still. And then we came out that weekend and we had a fundraiser day at the park and at the finish line for it. So that was my first marathon.
Beautiful.
And then ran another marathon 6 weeks later. And then I had a little bit of a break in 2020 just to play footy. 2022, sorry.
Yeah. To
play footy. But then as soon as footy finished, straight back into training for the 100K that we did at the start of this year.
Wow. So before we go into the 100K, like just for our listeners that are tuning in that want to get fitter and maybe do more runs and catching some inspiration, I'm sure everyone by the end of this episode will probably want to go for a run, including myself. But two things I want to ask you is just like, one, the mental benefits you found from running, and then secondly, to break a personal best, to go from 5 to 10K or to run a half marathon, like when your mind is shit's hitting the fan, like what have you done to be able to break through that and come out the other side? Because there's kind of two fitnesses I find with ultra distance running, and I haven't done a marathon, mind you. I've just done
half marathon yet.
Yeah, right. Yes. I've done 31 Ks is the most.
That's good.
But what I did find in that is that I was dying like halfway through or three, but then the last like 5-6 Ks I was dying early, and then when I had a blissful moment where I was like, I could run forever.
Yeah.
And I broke through this barrier. I was like, mate, half an hour ago I thought I might have to stop. I just want you to, I learned a lot in that moment. So just to go back to my question, benefits of running mentally and then to break a PB to push through the barriers.
Yeah, so mentally, obviously I touched on it a little bit before. It's something I found really helps my mental health. Like if I'm having a bad day, all I have to do is chuck my 2 shoes on, head out the door, put the headphones in and just be in my own head and, in my own space. Or, if you want to go for a run with a mate or whatever, whoever that is. And then you finish your run and you feel, you've released endorphins and you feel $1 million afterwards. And that's what I find really helps. And that's what I use, if I'm not, not every day you're going to be feeling good. That's life. Like if you are, I don't know what's going on, but not every day you're going to be feeling good, but it's how we work through these moments. So that's what I found really helps my mental health. And then pushing through that mental barrier, for a long time, I probably didn't push myself too hard. But it's one of those things running that it sort of doesn't have any limits. Like obviously you've got to, I did a bit of work to get to where I was. I didn't just come out and start running 50K a day.
Absolutely.
Obviously you've got to build up to it. But it's one of those things, when it gets that little bloke in your head or woman in your head is telling you to stop. If you can push through that little pain barrier and, get the extra 2-3K every time.
Yeah.
As long as you don't.
Like I'm talking attainable goals here, running from like 2K to 5K for some people, right? Like to push through that. I know like some people give into that voice and I'm one of them at times. I'm sure you have been before.
I have been definitely in the past, but you know, you can always push that little bit further.
So you just reckon tell it to shut up? Because I spoke to an ultra marathon legend, John Van Wisser, and he said it quotes me because I asked him, I was like, mate, how do I beat my PB in running? And because his first thing was that ultra events is like life. It's like, you know, I think he broke the world record for running from London to the English Channel, swimming the English Channel, and then biking. Yeah, biking from the English Channel to Paris, the Arc de France or whatever it is.
Crazy.
And did it in like 2 days or something, like had a bit of sleep. Yeah, and I was like, mate, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, ultra events are like life. You think you're going well, and then something out of the corner just whack you in the face, and you're dealing with adversity.
Yeah.
And I was like, mate, I think the most I'd run at the time was like 9 or 10 Ks. Like, how do I beat that? You know, like mentally. And he said to me, he's like, don't look at your watch. Don't worry about time. Just like space. He's like, just smell the roses and just like look around you and like forget time and distance is what he said, and just run.
That's what I've always said. 1K at a time. Just concentrate on getting 1K at a time.
Yeah,
and just tick them off, and you know they'll start falling. And as we touched on before, if you're running with other people as well,
that's a good one.
That really helps you. Like you can sort of push yourself a bit more, and you're encouraging each other. Come on, let's go.
Distract your mind. You
get a conversation going. You're not looking at your watch.
Yeah,
it's a great way to build up to it. You know, run a PB.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. You don't have to run quick all the time.
Yeah,
that's the best thing I found about running as well, and something I didn't learn for a long time. I thought you had to run quick to get better. You don't.
So you can go like your own slow snail pace and get some distance up.
It's better to do a lot of your running at a slower pace, and then you do a couple of quicker sessions a week, and that's the way to go about it.
Hey legends, just a quick pause in this episode to let you know about the partners supporting the show. Vibe Culture have been coming around, as you've seen on my socials. I've been supporting them for a while. I absolutely love these guys because I am on a clean kick and a health kick for 2024, and these guys are the perfect remedy to support that. They are the secret to a productive day, the hangover cures for those long nights or those nights where you're not getting much sleep. Seize the day and optimize performance. I've already made a bottle here. You just put 1 scoop in it. It's only got 2 grams of sugar and 54 calories per serving, so it's really healthy. It's a great replacement from coffee as well. I'm loving using it. As I said, I have it every day pretty much before I go to gym, which is fantastic. The flavor's great. It's better than a Hydrolyte. It tastes like cordial, which I love. I love flavored drinks, and the Tropical Punch is the flavor that I've been going for. But as I said, it's a great way to seize the day and win the day. I love them as well because they want to support you guys, the Unlaced listeners. So if you head in the bio, you'll see the Vibe Culture website there. 15% off your first purchase using the discount code UNLACED. If you want to follow the remedies that I'm doing to get on a cleaner sort of movement for 2024, get around these guys. They're absolutely fantastic. But let's get back into the episode. So how many marathons did you do before you thought of the insane goal to run 100 kilometers?
So I've done 3. 3. Yeah, 3 marathons before.
What was the most distance you'd reach before the 100 was?
100. So I've had a coach for it. So his name was Kev Mannix down at Run for Body and Soul, best in the business.
Yeah, shout out Kev.
Shout out Kev. He's an absolute king, and he's one of the best folks you'll ever meet. He's always happy. He's always looking to help you out, and just a great person to be around. So yeah, I ran my biggest run before the 100 was 65K in training.
Wow. That's 1, that's a lot. And also 2, to put yourself at 100. What's that? 35K
35
more.
more. So
fuck me. That's higher than my PB. That's insane. So wait, so let's go into this. So 100K, why did you want to do that?
Yeah, so I sort of, So I've sort of always try and set myself goals after I sort of finish one. So I've got something to work towards. So obviously did the 100K back in February this year.
Yes.
I remember I wrote it in my goals it would have been March 2022. I said,
so a year before pretty much.
So pretty much a year before. I go, all right, 100K, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to raise money and help get this program up and running off the ground, something I'm really passionate about, out of the blue, something I'm really passionate about. So yeah, I've said to Kev, as soon as I finish footy, let's do it. Put me on a training program. Ended up running the Melbourne Marathon a couple of weeks after we actually won the grand final, which is unreal as well.
Wow.
So a couple of weeks later, that was week 1. sort of ran the Melbourne Marathon off no training.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, that was, mate, running a marathon event is one of the best things you can do as well, and something I highly recommend to people to do. Like day one this year for the 50-50s, that was Melbourne Marathon. Unbelievable day to be a part of.
Wow, special. Okay.
But yeah, sort of had that in the goals, and I sort of brought a couple of mates along with me. They sort of said to them what I was doing. And they weren't, at the time, they were mates that I played footy with. They weren't some of my close mates. But now they're two of the closest, like very, very close with them both. And they jumped on board, and, you know, we got to work, a lot of training, Sunday long runs all together. And then, did the 100K. I think it was on the 12th of Feb this year. And then we had about 80 people run throughout that day and get involved. And a lot of people run PBs that day. I had a crack at running distances, and everyone finished. And like, there's a lot of my mates run their first marathon, and they were absolutely like crying. They were stoked, and I was like, "How good is that?"
So you're just dragging blokes, mate. You're like the suburban David Goggins. You actually are. You're the David Goggins with a mullet. Like you are just are just carrying blokes. You are carrying the boats.
Well, that's the
with
thing.
Humans on it.
I love bringing people along, and I love seeing other people, you know, inspire other people to push themselves, because there's a lot of people like that day didn't think they could run that far.
Yeah.
And then they've just come out and they've run their first marathon, and they're like, how good's this?
This is why I wanted to highlight the shitty part of what you went through, because doesn't it show like all of a sudden you're the one that was scared to tell people what you're going through, hiding things from people, battling, you know, the loss of purpose as such, and using vehicles that are probably, you know, torch the body and mind as such. And now you're the bloke carrying people along for PBs. So it's like it's a valuable lesson for people at home to, if you're not achieving what you want, it can change quickly based off if you want it to.
100%.
And you start acting upon it, which is fucking awesome, dude.
So good.
Yeah.
And I love seeing other people do that. That's what inspires me when I see other people, you know, pushing themselves, and it's amazing what you can do. It's just whether you can lock into your mind and, you know, push that little bit further.
100 kilometers, just to break that down, how much in your mind is that physical, and how much percentage physical versus mental?
I would say, obviously, you've got to, you know, you got to put the work in. Like, you got to put the Ks into the legs. Otherwise, you know, you're going to break down. That's. I would say, I'd probably say a lot of it though. I'd probably say 60% mental.
Well, yeah.
40% physical.
Yeah. So how long did you train before that? Like, what are you doing? Like you mentioned, I know your schedule is pretty rigorous in regards to doing sort of some shorter runs, slower runs, some long runs, like that build up. Is that what you were doing before the 100-kilometer event?
Yeah, so I did a 20-week training program for that one. Obviously, I was still working full time as a landscaper.
That's amazing as well. That's nuts.
So I don't know. Maybe it helps me just being, you know, physically active all the time. Maybe help the legs get a bit more conditioned. But so I did a 20-week training program and just built the Ks up every week, and then a little taper before the 100K, and sort of as I'll wait for you to touch on it. But yeah, that's that finishing that 100K sort of gave me the
next phase.
The next phase, and really helped me, you know, think that I could do this next challenge that
have you met Ned Brockman?
I did meet Ned Brockman recently.
Well, I'm not surprised. Like, is he aware of what you're doing?
I did tell him what I was doing. Yeah, I met him actually the day after the AFL Grand Final this year. That was for the first time. So,
right.
I had a chat to him about what I wanted to do. But yeah, no, he's definitely an inspiration of mine. That's sort of, obviously everyone's got the inspirations, and you see other people doing these things and you're like, oh, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
So that's sort of what also gave me, seeing someone else do it, which gave me the, you know, the momentum and, you know, belief that I could do it.
Isn't it crazy how someone that's done an extreme challenge like Ned Brockman and what we're about to talk about, which is the meat of this show, but just from breaking barriers and doing something that no one else has done, now he's got a chocolate milk brand.
Yeah,
like, doesn't it just show that fucking anything's possible?
Anything is possible.
If you put yourself out there, the nuggets find you, and you create stuff that's relevant to you and what you want, you monetize it, and all of a sudden you're your own business.
Yeah.
Just from doing something crazy like that. So that's why you're on the cusp of something quite big, if you stick at it. But the 50 kilometers every day for 50 days. So you've done the 100. You've played footy this year.
Yeah, so I played footy. Yeah, so I finished 100 on the 12th of Feb, and then played footy throughout the year.
So no extreme challenge in that period, obviously, because you're dedicated to footy.
Yeah, so I pulled the running back a fair bit. Sort of as I said before. Yeah, so I've had the goal. Sort of put the goal in about mid-Jan this year that I wanted to do 50K every day for 50 days. And then obviously I finished the 100, and it gave me the belief that I could do it. Just because. Yeah, I finished it quite easily. Like I didn't feel like I hurt too much, or I was, I obviously did a lot of work to get there. So yeah, I was like, all right, it's 15th of October. That's when I want to start. But yeah, obviously played footy, so I didn't do too much running throughout the footy season. Just a couple of footy trainings. Actually struggled to get back into footy because it's such a different type of running. Like got a couple of little injuries at the start, so. Just to change of direction, change of pace. But then, it came good. I was playing footy, and then actually fractured my ribs in round, I think, 6 or 7.
Oh, that's that's hard to breathe and cough and shit, hey?
So I was out, missed about 6 weeks of footy. But then I was like, oh.
How do you go through that period? Like it's a bit of like where you're handcuffed?
Well, that's when I was like, oh, I'm off for 6 weeks. I can still run though.
Okay.
In pain. Carrying the rib, but I'm not going to do any damage. So I started running again, and I went up and ran the Gold Coast Marathon while I couldn't play footy.
Wow.
So did a little build for that.
You're off chops, mate, aren't you? You are.
It's funny.
You're actually a nut. You're actually a nutter.
That's my nickname. Chopper.
Chopper. Oh, God. Mate, I love this. Shit's inspiring. You've cracked your ribs, can't play for 6 weeks. I'll just go run a mara up in the Gold Coast.
As I said,
you need
fitness
something.
is what keeps my head in a good place. So it's something I love doing, and I found really helps. So I was like, all right, I can run. I was in a little bit of pain, but not too much.
Yeah.
I made sure I wasn't going to do any more damage by running. Did that. Went up and ran Gold Coast. That was in July, early July. And then, came back in. Actually, earlier on in the season, I did just for a little bit of a mental challenge because I knew this challenge of running 50K a day for 50 days was obviously got to be mentally pretty challenging. I actually ran the Great Ocean Road Marathon on a Sunday after a game of football, which was brutal. One of the toughest things I've ever done. That was brutal.
That is crazy.
So
That's not an easy marathon too, because
it was one of the worst things I've ever done.
One of our guests, Louis Phillips, he did it, and I think he'd done a marathon before, but I remember him saying the slopes or
the headwind.
Yeah, the headwind running in. Obviously, you got it's not the prettiest run too if the weather's not nice. Like it's quite gruesome.
Horrible. It was the worst conditions I've ever run in. It was like 60K headwinds running straight into it.
It's almost like you're running more than a marathon.
There was a couple of hills like you were going up. It just kept going, and you would literally felt like you're going up and down on the one spot. So it was tough conditions, but all a part of it. So did that as well. And then did the Gold Coast and then finished that, and then came back and played the last 6 rounds of footy. And I sort of said last 7 games, and then about 12 weeks out from when I wanted to start the challenge, I sort of said to my coach, all right, we probably need to get some more Ks in. Mm. So with 6 weeks to go of footy, we weren't going to play finals. So I was like, I'll start doing a bit of running just because, I'll still play footy, still train twice a week, play the game, but I'll do some running just so I can get ready to bump up the Ks and get ready for this challenge once footy finishes. So I was sort of doing about 70K a week on top of 2 trainings in a game. So it's probably worked out to be about 100K a week.
Okay.
The Sunday runs on the Sunday long runs were pretty brutal.
Yeah,
after a game of
you've got this thing, don't you? The Sunday longies,
like Sunday longies. Yeah, love a Sunday longies.
So what is that
so
exactly?
A Sunday long run is where you sort of run
load up.
That's the load up. So it's sort of like anywhere over 20K where you're just sort of cruising. 5:30s, 5:15s pace.
That's cruising. Right.
Cruising.
Yeah, noted. Jesus.
So they were brutal. That was probably one of the toughest. That was tough. After a game of football, because the footies just change of direction. You get hit, tackled. Yeah,
it's a different soreness too.
The
ground, the body. Yeah,
but I didn't want to. Obviously, didn't complain about it because I'm like, this is what I want to do. Mm. And when I'm zoned in and, narrowed in on the goal, you got to do everything you can to work towards that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, did that for 6 weeks. And then once footy finishes, bumped it right up. So it was like 130K for a week, 140, 150, 160, and then a little taper into day one.
Okay, so what day did you start the 50 days
So
challenge?
it started October 15th, which was Melbourne Marathon, day one.
So day one. So then how long's that after footy? Like, have you had sufficient training? Like, that's not footy running? That's
so that
more,
was 6 weeks after my last game of football.
it's still not that long after it, man. Like, to prepare for it's 6, how many weeks is 50 days?
I saw it.
It's almost 6
It was
weeks.
sort of a 12-week build, though, because I was doing those 70K a week for the last 6 weeks of football. So I did a 12-week build for it. So,
Wow.
but it was one of those things our coach said to me, like, because I told him in March what I wanted to do, and he sort of looked at me and he's like, you're a bit mad, mate. He goes, but you know what, we'll do what we can. And I feel like he absolutely nailed the build up to it, because it was one of those things, you don't want to run too many Ks before actually doing the challenge.
Yeah, okay.
So it was a lot of like, in those last 6 weeks, there was a lot of runs like midweek. It was like a 36K run on a Wednesday after work. And then the next day was a 22K run. So it was like back-to-back sort of long runs.
Okay.
And then on the weekend was like a 50K run on a Saturday and then a 30K on a Sunday. So just get used to the back-to-back, backing it up.
Right, gotcha. Wow, man. So this is pretty crazy, because I'm just doing the math in my head. 7 weeks is literally the challenge. So
7 weeks, yeah.
49 days.
49 days.
So there you go, 50 days. You've done every day 50 Ks. Even though you're, at this point, you're doing some crazy challenges, your mental strength for backing up big runs with big runs is probably far superior than everyone's for a challenge. But day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you're not getting any recovery. You're going straight back in. At this point, you're still working, right?
Working full-time as a landscaper.
Nuts, which is incredible.
My boss let me finish at 2:30. So I finish an hour early every day, which is very nice of him.
Shout out. Yeah.
Shout out to him. So I could sort of start the runs by 4 o'clock in the arvo and sort of try and get home in a decent time.
Wow. So like to dumb this down for us that don't do this challenge, like even though from the outside it looks like you smashed it out the ballpark, like where were the roadblocks? Where were the barriers? When did any walls start to cave in a little bit on, like this is, because I imagine this is way tougher than running one off 100K.
Yeah, definitely was. Yeah. So actually, I've got a funny story for you before we continue
please
on
go.
here. So I was absolutely itching to start, like pumped, ready to rock and roll. Been waiting for this. I could not wait. Day 1, Melbourne Marathon. Set my alarm for 4:15. So obviously the marathon's only 42.2K. So I set my alarm for 4:15 in the morning. Realised my alarm didn't go off. I've set it for 4:15 p.m. I've woken up at 6 o'clock because I was meant to be in there at 6 to do 8K before the start.
Oh.
I've woken up at 6 a.m. and it starts at 7.
Oh, no.
So I've rushed to get ready. Got ready. Uncle drops me off, about 4K from the start line at about 6:30. So I got 4.2 in. So still have to make up about 3K throughout the run, and run with a couple of mates for doing their first marathon. So was running with them, and then one of my mates dropped off at about the 36K mark.
Oh, no.
Shout out to him, Harry Zaya.
That hurts.
But he did very well, but the hill got the better of him.
Yeah.
And so I kept running in, and you turn in at the G to finish. You finish on the MCG, and my other mate ran in, and I thought, well, I've got to make up 3K here. So I've turned around. I've started running backwards to my mate. So I've got everyone's sort of looking at me going, what are you doing, mate? Because I had to get to 50. So I ran back a K, came back in a K, and then I got to near the finish line. I still had a K to make out, so I turned around again.
Did 500.
At 500 and then 500 back, and everyone's looking at me like, what is this bloke doing? And I was like, oh, geez, it would have looked funny. And it's so funny. There's a couple of people in the crowd from the footy club videoing, and there's a video of me just coming to near the finish line and then just doing a massive U-turn and running back out.
Doesn't that just embody your name, the crazy running man, in one?
It wasn't the best start, but we got it done. But yeah, that was all part of it.
That embodies the crazy running man. That in itself, a bloke who's just done a marathon, just running back and forth in the MCG. It's pretty special.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny.
All right, so I just want to go back to my question because I want to dumb this down for us. Like, as I said, you've done back-to-back runs. You're mentally prepared for it. But was there moments throughout this challenge where physically it was almost too demanding because you couldn't have the time to rest your body, rest your legs? Or was there any point in it where you thought, like, fuck, I don't know if I'm going to physically be able to, because I know mentally you're probably like, stuff that I'm going to finish this, but physically, was there any points where you're like, this is going to be tough?
Yeah, so mentally was always thought I could do it and believed I could do it. Going in, the only worry was the physical side. Like, obviously, it's the unknown of how the body's going to pull up. Whether, you might get a stress fracture or something like that. But I was pretty lucky, like, from day 6 to about day 24, I reckon, was when I was at my worst. Like, I was having a few knee trouble.
Day 6 to day 24. That's a pretty long part of the challenge, bro.
It was, but it wasn't like I just had my left knee was in a bit of strife. Like, I couldn't extend it properly, but I had a couple of little calf niggles. But I had some. I was in very good hands with some osteos that were looking after me, and the recovery lab in Hampton. I do a whole heap of recovery as well, which was really helping. Back it up every day. Like ice bath, sauna, recovery boots, all that, and then getting osteo twice a week as well.
All right.
But mate, honestly, after day 24, it's funny how it works. Like, my body just seemed like it adapted, and like I was feeling that much better, and like my knee was fine. But yeah, that was the toughest period, and even like a couple of things with my piss as well. The urine, like a couple of couldn't piss properly for a couple of days.
Oh, so what, you're not pissing, or you're pissing out?
I needed to piss, but nothing would come out.
Because you're sweating so much.
So much, and I think it was just like getting used to running 50K every day, and like I was pretty on top of all the fueling throughout the runs. I had my uncle on the bike. The riding man, he was a bit of a cold figure. He didn't miss a day either. And
wow, didn't he?
Fair,
shout out.
He actually shout out to him, and he fell off day 6 over the top of the handlebars at Duncan McKinnon, and he actually fractured his wrist, and he kept riding the whole time. So his support was
this challenge is just warped with mental toughness and like militant behaviour.
Honestly, it had everything, and like it was so much fun. But yeah. It's funny how it works. Like, the body just adapted, and like my body's fine now. Like, I haven't got any, sort of ongoing issues at the moment. So yeah, it's
what held you accountable to keep turning up every day? Was it the charity? Obviously, the out of the blue. Was it the people watching?
The charity, but the main thing was the support from people coming down. Like, obviously there's some days where like I was really tired, and in the back of my mind, like, I can't be bothered doing it. But when you got so many people coming down to get involved and support you, how can you feel bad? And you got to show up for them. And as soon as I got there, like, just being around them and seeing them supporting the run and the 50K a day for 50 days is what really inspired me to keep going.
Yeah, I don't want to say shut down your social life, because you're probably having more social gatherings more than you ever have every day running, right? But like, in a sense, did you have to shut down everything else outside of work in these 50K runs to be able to achieve what you did?
Yeah, like, obviously I've cut back my social life. There was a couple little special runs that we did. Yeah, that we still got the Derby Day races on the Saturday. That was a bit of a special run that we had in our goal. So we had the 3 a.m. start, and then in the nursery, run a car park in the nursery that day. That was good fun. No drinking though.
Yeah.
But it was good
I can imagine. Yeah,
good
but just
to get out and socialise. Yeah, and it was a long weekend. So.
Normalise the experience, because if you get too bogged down, that can be like day 40. You're like, fuck, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was, but yeah, obviously had to make sacrifices, but you could do so much socialising when you're running for 4.5 hours every night. So yeah, no, it was really good.
It's amazing to me that the hardest part was at day 6 to day 24. I would have thought, like, not saying that I would know, but getting closer towards the end, like that middle part, it's like almost like a marathon when you think you can't do it, and then you get towards the end and it makes sense because you're so close to keep pushing.
Yeah.
But did you feel fine through that sort of like day 36 to day 50 when you're close, but it's still quite far away?
Yeah. So I reckon sort of the sort of no man's land was probably like day 35 to about day 41, 42 was probably like, sort of in between finishing and, getting into the last week. But you know what? I was seeing obviously getting people involved with all the runs, that's obviously what kept me going. And when I'm a man of my word, when you say you're going to do something, I'll follow through with it. So
yeah, good on you for that. What was the there was a few things I noticed as well, like different locations, treadmill runs. Just break that down. Was there any science behind that, or was that just to mentally refresh on different kind of services and venues?
Yeah, so that as well. So refresh and change it up each time. So Monday to Friday, we ran the same location each day of the week. So like Monday, we're at Albert Park, Tuesday, the treadmill, Wednesday, Caulfield Park, Thursday, the tan, and then Friday, the Duncan McKinnon party hole, we used to call it. So we used to get the barbecue firing and, get the beverages flowing and get a bit of music, DJ playing.
How good's that?
So it was a bit of fun, and we usually got pretty good weather for it as well, so we had some good turnouts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the locations was to try and get different people involved from different areas as well. So, we had a lot of people out from like the west side coming down to the Albert Park, to the tan, and then, a lot of people from the south side come down to, Caulfield Park and Duncan McKinnon. So, yeah, it was just to change it up and get different people from different parts of the community involved.
Wow, bro, it's pretty special, man.
I've
got to go into the last day, because that even for you, I know you're taken back, and I'm sure we'll have some footage on some clips of going around socials that people can see of like the amount of people that were running with you through the challenge. But just particularly the last day, I had, as I told you, we didn't even know each other. I had mates hitting me up, telling me to come along for it. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, mate, this guy's doing the 50th day for 50K. I'm like, do you know him? They're like, oh, not really. So, people like that were turning up. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't fully know you.
That's the best thing about it.
Isn't that
that's
insane?
That's what I love about it. And that's what I love about running and bringing people together, bringing the community together. And day 50, it still gives me goosebumps. Like, it honestly blew me away to have that much support there and so many people come down. And I didn't have words for a bit there. Like, I was just blown away.
Yeah. Were you exhausted at the end of the challenge, or were you still had energy because of the atmosphere and the buzz that was there?
I definitely still had energy. Like, that's probably the best day I've had in my whole life that day. Like, it was something else. And like, I worked it out the other day. We had 23 people run 50K that day.
Had out of that 23, had any of them run it before?
Yeah, so a few had run their first 50 during the 50 days, but I think
so people were doing that wow, that's nuts.
I had a mate run 12.
12 days of it, 50, he did 50.
Yeah, 50.
Wow, bro.
That's just unbelievable to have that support.
And had he run a marathon before? Or
he did. He ran the 100 with me.
Fuck.
But still, like, he hadn't.
That's right. Good on him, bro.
So, and to have that support, and like, that's someone that's just a great mate that's getting behind it, and something that I'll definitely treasure forever, him doing that for me.
So just to hit this home, was there any point of any run where you thought quit?
Never.
Not one? Never, and never even thought that you couldn't complete the 50? Because some of the times you were doing were pretty fucking quick, bro. Like lightning.
Well, that's the thing, I came good. They started to get quicker. Like the last 25.
You'd think you'd be hanging on a little bit, but it was like you were sprinting home.
Yeah. That's what I was saying about the body. Like, my body came good, and it actually got quicker towards the end. But it was one of those things as well. Like, I didn't care about the time as well. Like, because if I had people coming down and they were having a crack at running their first 50 or their first half, I'm big on not leaving anyone behind, So we'll pull back the pace if someone's dropping off. One in, all in, bring people with you all together. And that's the best thing about it was.
David Goggins speaks about it a lot, and I can't relate to it because I haven't done an extreme challenge yet. But
that's the key. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, right. I'll definitely do one, man, because I'm like, my brain's wired that way. But
and it doesn't have to be running; it could be anything.
I'm dedicating a lot of time to this, so I want to start dedicating more time to like fitness, because I'm so used to being fit, but not long distance, not endurance fit. So that's something new for me as well to go after, which would be fun. But David Goggins always speaks about it, which has always rattled my mind. It's like when he's working with people that are doing their first endurance events, or even himself, his own experiences, like there's points where he's been pissing out blood, his toes are broken, all this sort of stuff. But something mentally happens where he no longer feels any pain or stress or tiredness. And it's like the ceiling to end is now limitless. And you kind of mentioned that then with your knee and the feeling that something just happened and it clicked, and mentally and physically it was like your times were getting quicker when they should really sort of, people would say biologically or scientifically be dropping off.
Yeah.
Because you haven't had rest, but you're getting quicker. It just shows something amazing about the body, how it adapts.
It's amazing how it adapts.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got to have the support and get the help you need to, help with injuries. And that was massive for me as well. Like I had a great support crew, with the osteos and the recovery lab in Hampton. So yeah, they really helped.
What was just a couple quick fire ones before we finish off with the sort of the unlaced question that we throw, but quickest time. What was the quickest day you did?
Quickest was day 51.
Wait, we've got to actually speak about this as well, didn't we? We haven't even touched on that, everyone. I think I touched on it at the start.
A little bit at the start.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, we didn't go into this because this speaks to the crazy running man's mentality himself. So you complete the challenge day 50, you have everyone there. You think, you know what, maybe I'll have a beer tonight and enjoy and throw the feet up and, bathe in my achievement. And the sick, crazy running man himself who's done so much couldn't rest, had to do it again. Why? Why did you have to go that 51st day?
The reason for day 51, well, I didn't want to run a quick one during the 50 days because I wasn't sure, like where I'd throw everything at it because I wasn't sure how the body will react to the quicker pace. And obviously the aim for the 50 days was to get as many people involved as possible, and that's what my aim was. So then obviously I thought, all right, if I pull up right after day 50, if the body's feeling good, we'll have a good crack day 51. So yeah, I obviously celebrated a little bit with friends, family on the Sunday night. Nothing too big, just had a couple of nice dinner and a couple of drinks with friends and family. And then so it was a pretty hot day on the Monday. So we pushed it back to about 6 o'clock just till it cooled down a bit. And I thought I'm just gonna throw everything I have at it. Ended up running about 4:20s for 50K.
That's a sprint. That's a sprint, mate.
You know what? The reason I wanted to do it is because obviously I like to challenge myself and see how far I can push myself. And that was, we had a saying during the 50 days that a lot of people have probably heard before, the hurt locker, the locker. So a lot of people were in the locker in the 50 days. And, that's the best thing. Like people were getting in the locker, but you get around them and they were getting out of the locker. Oh, so, yeah, I was in the hurt locker on day 51. I'm not going to lie.
Wow, man. Amazing. The fastest time on the 51st day, which was 1 outside of the challenge, and 2 the last day. Like at the end point when, wow, man, it's pretty special, bro. You're definitely a special human being, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it,
with a special story. I've been so happy to have you on. How is the body now? You kind of cooling off? Are you able to run? Is it got to be recouped and rehabbed and?
I haven't had a day off since I finished.
What, like just normal? Are you? Look at you laugh. It's sick.
Nah. Mate, I love it.
Are you going for a run now?
I went this morning.
Oh, you went this morning?
I've actually got a 100K run coming up on this Saturday.
Wow.
So that's with a mate of mine who's doing his first 100K, and he's doing it for a mental health foundation, raising money for Beyond Blue. So we're sort of rallying around him and going to support him through that. And that's what it's all about, supporting your mate. So doing that with him, which will be exciting, and I'm bloody pumped for him.
Wow, mate, it's very special. As the listeners will know, the question we like to ask new guests on the show, and I want to probably attest this to the 50-day challenge. We kind of always iterate 3 key traits to success, or attest it from business, sport, but in this case, the 50-day challenge: resilience, drive, or ambition. All 3 would have been critical throughout this, but what was the rock? What was the cornerstone of what got you from day 1 to day 51?
Definitely the cornerstone was definitely having the support from everyone, from my family, my friends. They always believed I could do it, and having people down. But you know what? When you say you're going to do something, I'm big on when you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. You got to do it, and you got to follow through with it. And I put this in my goals back in January this year, and everything I did throughout the year sort of set me up for this 50-day challenge. And that drive throughout. Like, there's a lot of times that there's a lot of times when I was alone and felt alone, but the sacrifices I had to make to get to where I wanted to get to. And to have that feeling on day 50 and celebrate that with everyone is something that I will cherish forever. And was so happy to have so many people there to experience that moment with crossing the finish line.
Well said, mate. Well, I'm looking forward to the next challenge. I know you've got one in the vault that you're going to be sharing very soon. So for those that want to get following the Crazy Running Man on Instagram,
yep,
I'm sure you'll announce it on there. For everyone at home, out of the blue, we've got the link below if you want to support and donate to what is a great cause that's led Jack to doing some incredible feats. All the people that were around Jack supporting it, I know some of you will be watching, but kudos to you guys as well, the unsung heroes of the challenge. Physically demanding, but hopefully this was an episode for you guys at home to take some juice from, to take some nuggets on. I know I definitely have. That's why we wanted to get him on the show, mate. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Jakey. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries, mate. Well, guys, we'll see you next week. A couple more shows to end the year. Appreciate all your love and support. Until then.